Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new series, F1 2018 Career Mode. It is finally time. I've put this off for so long and I decided it's time to do it. So we decided to go with a team that you're about to see in a moment. It's not a winning team, I can guarantee you that right now. It's a mid to back running car. So maybe you can kind of guess before we get into the car here, but we're in for our qualifying session practice. Went fairly decent. We're not obviously going to have a lot of speed, so we're going with 105 AI difficulty to start the career mode. I decided to go a little low for it because I'm usually 107, 108, but I figured since I'm in a slower car, we're going to just turn the AI down just a little bit, and now you get to see that we went with the Mclaren F1 team, so we're going to be teammates with Fernando Alonso as he decided to stick around for another season. And we cut right to our qualifying attempt. We're doing short qualifying to start. We might put it to full sessions in the future. My first lap was not a very good attempt. As you've seen Raikkonen, he was currently in the pole position, but we came across the line for our first lap and we went P19 over 2.3 seconds behind the leader of Raikkonen. So I decided we had to make a second attempt. So we did lap number 2, and you can see already in the green to start the lap. And one of the problems at Australia is there's never enough ERS to run max out in a whole lap. So we kind of had to manage that a little bit, but you see we're already running over a tenth and a half better at this point as we come to the back half of the track now. Just about 0.3 better than my current lap as we go through the little left and right chicane. Now through the little right bend we were tracking about 0.3 better, so this was looking really good, but now you see towards the end of the lap the actual time started to drop off a little bit as we came through the last corner. We did have a really solid last right-hander which helped the time pick up a little bit, so we're going to come across the line almost 0.2 better, and that's going to put me P15, and I felt that I could do better than that, but I decided to retire from the session as our teammate Fernando Alonso got P14 and we dropped to P17, so not a great effort, but I'm confident when come race time we can make something happen here as we get ready for the pre-show.
New drivers, new cars, and a new Formula One season. But it's the same Albert Park that we've come to know and love for more than 2 decades now that hosts the first round of a 21-race championship, taking us from here in Melbourne, Australia, across the globe before we eventually reach the season finale at Yas Marina Circuit in Abu Dhabi. So here we are at Albert Park Circuit. 3.3 miles of public roads, closed for the weekend of course, make for a bumpy surface with little undulation. There are 16 corners around the lake with the best passing opportunities coming at turn 1 and turn 3. We have plenty of changes to the sport this year with the addition of new safety features, the return of France and Germany in an expanded 21-race calendar, and more tyre compounds than ever before. And of course, we have some big car manufacturers back in the sport too, with Alfa Romeo and Aston Martin returning as title sponsors for Sauber and Red Bull respectively. Joining me to take you through all the action of the 2018 Formula One season is Anthony Davidson. Great to have you with us.
Thanks, Crofty. Always happy to be here. I'm looking forward to getting underway. Last year was Mercedes' 4th Constructors' title in a row, although for the first half of the season it was absolutely neck and neck with the Ferraris. Hopefully this year we can see the chasing pack take that final step, as I'd love to see a championship contest all the way up to the final race in Abu Dhabi. Another story to keep an eye on is the relative performance of Mclaren and Toro Rosso, who have exchanged power unit suppliers this year. And given the additional restrictions on engine components, they need to be strong in terms of both performance and reliability.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Kimi Raikkonen starts today from pole position, and starting alongside in P2 is Sebastian Vettel. Looking down the rest of the grid we have Bottas, Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo and Verstappen, Hülkenberg, Sainz, Grosjean and Esteban Ocon, Magnussen, Perez, Charles Leclerc and Alonso, Gasly, Stroll, the Rainmaster and Brendan Hartley, Ericsson and Sergei Sirotkin rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Okay, be wary of the cars ahead braking suddenly into one. We could ruin our race if we hit them. Good luck.
Alright, there you hear it from our engineer Jeff, and we are ready to go green for the Australian Grand Prix. You saw the starting order, and now we are ready. 5 red lights. And we are green and underway in Melbourne, Australia, behind the Toro Rosso of Gasly and fellow Canadian in the Williams, Lance Stroll, as we have Marcus Ericsson right on our tail as we had a lot of wheel spin on that start. We go a little conservative into turn 1 as Brendan Hartley comes along my right side, and now we get to the left-hand side of Fernando Alonso, our teammate, down the straightaway going into the sharp right-hander. We're going to have to slow up pretty early, and Alonso's going to make a diving move and onto the right side of Gasly and try to gain the position now, as we did not lose or gain any positions on the start, so it wasn't bad at all as Alonso and Gasly go side by side through the right-hander. Gasly makes a little bit of contact with my left front, as I don't think he realized I was there, as he continues to try to battle our teammate Fernando Alonso, but Alonso finally gets clear of him and is away as he takes P15 as we go up the inside now of Gasly into the right-hander. And hopefully we can get past him as we force him wide and gain the position now up to P16 behind our teammate of Fernando Alonso.
That's a strong start. Well done.
Very strong start here from our engineer Jeff. Only 1 spot gained in total, but I mean it's not bad. We're aiming for at least a top 15 here, and anything better than that I'll be pretty happy with in this race now as we close up on the back of our teammate Alonso, who's in the train behind Stroll and Charles Leclerc, as we also have Perez and another car up ahead of him, which might be his teammate Esteban Ocon, as we go into the left-hander. Really no opportunity to make a move there on our teammate Alonso as we come out of the right-hander, the last corner, and we're going to come through to complete our first lap of the race as we put the ERS into overtake mode, trying to stay on the back at least of our teammate Alonso as we come down the straightaway into turns 1 and 2, and a solid exit there, but that's going to maybe help me close up a little bit on the back of Fernando as we come down the straightaway into the right-hander. We're going to stay conservative and ride behind him for the moment, as no one's really making any dramatic moves or diving moves up the inside of anyone early on in this race. I mean, we're only on lap 2 of the season as we go a little wide there out of the right bend, get into the grass just a little bit, and that allows Pierre Gasly to close the gap up on me just a little bit there in the Toro Rosso car, which Toro Rosso, we should be beating them this season, and hopefully we can slowly upgrade our team to the point where we are going to be, you know, on a regular basis a top 10 team, and that's what we're really aiming for. Now as we come to a few laps later, you're going to see Kimi Räikkönen had an incident with Lewis Hamilton as he goes spinning in turns 1, and that's going to allow us to gain a free position as we come through now on lap 4 to drive past his spun car, and he's going to cycle through all the way to the last position and put me up to P15, as now later that lap we close in on Alonso through the right-hander, and now running in medium ERS mode, as we might need to turn it up shortly, but I decided we needed to try to save some at least because I was overusing it in the first few laps. So we turned it down, and we have saved it to about halfway of its store capacity now as we come down the straightaway. It looks like Alonso's going to make a move on Lance Stroll. It goes to the left-hand side, side by side in the right-hander. A little bit of contact now and a little bit of a lockup from someone there as we go into the right-hander again. They're going to stay side by side. Stroll doesn't want to give it up, but Alonso, he does gain the position as we're going to try to get to the inside of Stroll, but he is not going to have it as he chops me, and now he's going to be able to pull away as I really had a bad corner entrance, and he gets a good solid gap between himself and I. Now as we come to lap 6 though, you see once again we've closed the gap back up on Stroll. We have the ERS up to high as we go through the left and right hander now, as we're going to turn the ERS up to overtake, and hopefully we can get around him. He does have DRS, but it doesn't matter. We're going to look to the right and try to make a move up the inside into the right hander as we're going to try and force him a little bit wide. He goes into the grass just about as we do get past Lance Stroll for a P14 now as we come to lap 12 at this point in the race. You see some of the drivers have started to make their way to pit road as Vettel has gotten past me and some of the other front runners have pitted and gotten past me, but we're up to P8 at the moment as our teammate Alonso sits in P6, and I decided lap 12 we're going to come in this time by to make our first and hopefully only pit stop of the race as we get down to the speed limit and push the pit limiter, and we're going to be taking the soft tire as we pass a Force India, Sergio Perez, and now a Haas as we come in to make our hopefully only pit stop unless we have some problems as they put on the soft tires. And we have a pretty solid pit stop from the team now as we approach the exit of pit lane, going to cycle out in P15, which was where we were before everyone started pitting, so we didn't really lose anything at all as Max Verstappen. He has certainly lost a bunch of time. He was off the pace earlier in the race, and you see he's not having a good run at all, as we got a piece of the grass there on the straightaway, and that's going to screw up my entrance to the right-hander. But thankfully we didn't get too much grass on the tires, so at this point everything was fine. But P15 on lap 13, so we got about 17 laps to go at this point in the race, and we said that we were aiming our goal to get a top 15 finish, and as it stands, we're going to be able to successfully complete that goal now as Verstappen, he starts to work on the car ahead of him as he tries to get past the Haas. I'm not sure if that's Magnussen or Grosjean, but we're about to probably find out as Verstappen, he's certainly setting him up for a pass down the straightaway if he has the power in the engine to get past him, after he certainly had some power issues earlier as our teammate Fernando Alonso, he came to pit road. Now a lap later, you see he came out just in front of me, so we're not going to be able to get to him yet, but now we do have a chance to get to his right hand side, just about into the grass as we try to make a pass up the right hand side of Alonso into the corner. We have a little bit of a lockup, but we do get the position from our teammate Fernando Alonso now as we gain the spot for P13 behind the Haas of Kevin Magnussen with about 16 laps to go in this race. We're up to 13th. If we can get 3 more spots, we can get into a points paying position. Now we come to later that lap, a little bit closer to Magnussen. We're slowly closing the gap on him, thankfully, as we certainly have a little bit more speed than the Haas right now. I'm not sure what's wrong with the Haas, but we come to lap 15 now. As you see, we try to make a pass on Magnussen of the right-hand side. A little bit of contact with the wheel-to-wheel there, but he does manage to stay on the track, and we do gain the position now to get up to P12, as our next target is Max Verstappen, which is a driver that we're definitely not going to be able to run down with just 15 laps to go. We're going to have to hope we have some slower cars up ahead, but we certainly have more speed than these other guys that we were trying to catch earlier in the race. But now this time around we have the speed, and they don't, as Charles Leclerc has a big issue into the left-hander, and we just about hit him, and we get into the grass, but thankfully we do avoid him, and now we do not get any damage from that, and we do get to P10 due to his issue. Now we ended up gaining another spot due to cars pitting, but you're going to see to lap 21 at this point. We're going to have Kimi Räikkönen, who spun earlier in this race, has ran me down and just drives right on by me with help from the DRS, but we did not even have a chance as we have a lot of oversteer out of turn 1 as I got way too much curb as I kind of cut the corner a little bit, and that certainly affected the handling of the car, but we were fortunate enough to hang on to it and have no problems at all. At this point, we have a pretty solid gap between myself and 11th place of Pierre Gasly, so I was really just managing the gap to him at this point, and if we can do that, we're going to be able to hang on to a points-paying position of P10 in this race, as Kimi Räikkönen at this point just continued, obviously, to drive away as we come to lap 26. And the gap between myself and Pierre Gasly, you see him in the background with a Ferrari behind him of Sebastian Vettel. The Ferraris are not having a very good race, and we know that Vettel is faster than us and Gasly, but there's clearly not going to be enough time for Gasly to be able to run me down, or Vettel. So we're just trying to manage a P10 finishing position at this point in the race, as we do have just 4 laps to go. You see a much larger gap between myself and Räikkönen now at over 8 seconds behind him. So we're obviously not going to be a factor to a Ferrari unless he had some type of issue. But we come to the last lap in this race. The gap continued to stretch out up over 13 seconds now, and Gasly has cut it down to 2.4 to me. So he has gained about a half a second to a second within the last handful of laps, as we do have a Mercedes driver getting ready to take the checkered flag here in Australia as he comes out of the last corner. It is Valtteri Bottas who's going to pick up the victory and win the first race of the season in Melbourne, Australia, as his teammate Lewis Hamilton will take home second place in Australia as we come through the back portion of the track now, still running P10, and we have done everything right, surprisingly, in this race so far. We've done a pretty solid job at maintaining the gap between myself and Pierre Gasly. At this point, you're going to see him coming in the background. The gap really hasn't changed. much at all, as he still sticks around 3 seconds behind as we come into the last sector of the track. Now through the right-hander, not much ERS left. I decided we're gonna go for a fastest lap or a personal fastest lap before this race is over. But now as we come into the last left-hander and approach the final corner here in Australia, we're going to manage to get a top 10 in our first F1 race. Now down the straightaway is going to be P10 in Australia.
Alright, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
Brilliant stuff from Mercedes today. That's another historic win. And Anthony Davidson, give me your thoughts. How did they accomplish this result?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
So as I say that, we can see the drivers coming out now to collect their trophies. It's yet more silverware to take back to their base in Brackley after another excellent Grand Prix. So then, it's time to see how this result
Alright,
affects
here's
the
your
Drivers'
finishing order. We
Championship.
have Carlos
Valtteri
Sainz
Bottas
somehow
takes the
getting a
lead of the
podium
Drivers' Championship.
in the
And now I'd
Renault,
like
and
to
then
ask
our
you,
teammate Fernando
Anthony
Alonso
Davidson,
finishing
who was your driver of the
P15.
day?
He
I'd
certainly
have to
fell
give it
off
to
in
the
the last half
Rainmaster.
of this
They
race as we
demonstrated
were
a
able to
very
get
delicate
P10,
touch in close
Kimi Räikkönen
proximity to other
P9,
cars,
and
as well as
Alonso
showing
was
a lot of
also the
maturity
last
and
car
patience in
on the
difficult
lead lap.
situations.
And here's how things are
As
shaping up
Gasly,
in
he
the
was the first
constructors.
guy outside of the top 10 as we have a
Your
media
day-to-day,
question
tell us
to
about it from your
answer.
perspective. You gained a lot of positions during the race, didn't you? You really looked in control of your car out there. Your team must be thrilled. You scraped the walls a few times. Were you struggling for grip? Great. Well, that's everything.
Alright, so there you have it. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you comment, subscribe, and like. Those would all be very appreciated. As well as our reputation did go up for, I think, every team there. And we had a really good first race in Formula 1 as we decided to make a couple upgrades before the next Grand Prix weekend. So hopefully those will be successful. We'll find out in the next episode. So thank you for watching, everyone, and have yourselves a great day.
Regarding how you're perceived throughout the paddock, your reputation with the current team, and your overall value to them, which is a combination